Okay, I was going to do a video ranking the wooden coasters I've been on, but I'm waiting until I get to Worlds of Fun to do that. If you didn't see my post, I will be skipping Six Flags St. Louis and Silver Dollar City this year due to budget issues. It sucks, but my main priority with my money right now is saving for college. I'm still a young coaster enthusiast, so I could get them done sometime else in my life. Being born in 2006, this list was not that long to compile. I was originally going to rank the years, but I thought it'd be more fun to just go year by year. Also, I will not be going by the Golden Ticket Awards. I will be going with what I think the best coaster to open in each year is. Starting off with my birth year of 2006 is Ejinika at Fuji-Q Highland. I could have gone with either of the American Woodies to open this year, El Toro or The Voyage, but this ride is on a whole different level. I've heard it even takes a step up from X2, a roller coaster of the same model. These fast-paced elements look like they shouldn't even be possible on a roller coaster. Every time I see a video of this ride, on ride or off, it still amazes me with how fast the seats rotate and how the train whips through the inversions. Even the elements with non-whippy moments still look to provide you with insane positive Gs. Everything about this ride screams wanting to be the best roller coaster in the world, and I think this ride looks to deliver on every level. Going into the next year of 2007 is Maverick at Cedar Point. This is one I can actually say I've ridden. This ride is incredibly intense and has the most snappy elements on any coaster I've been on. I'm pretty sure I grayed out in almost every moment that had sustained positive Gs. I think this is now the most intense roller coaster I've been on. With those whippy moments, I'm surprised I didn't get whiplash, especially in the second Stangle dive. Complementing those intense positives, this ride also throws in some of the most bonkers negative Gs I've ever experienced. My dad and I got the very back row, so we got to experience the airtime in all its glory. As a bonus, we slowed down for the second launch, as usual, but it immediately launched us out. Normally this ride waits a few seconds, but we launched as soon as we slowed down. This ride may not be the tallest, but the overall experience more than makes up for it. Taking the award for the best 2008 coaster, at least in my eyes, is T-Express at Everland. This ride looks to have the best aspects of Balder and El Toro and even enhances them. Though the El Toro section looks pretty short, it still looks to give the strongest moment of sustained airtime on any coaster. Combine that with the intense looking positive Gs and the quick pop of airtime into the mid-course, and you get a short but sweet first half. After that is the Balder section. It might look really repetitive, but those airtime moments look to take the power of Magnum's finale and the smoothness of Steel Vengeance's. With those turnarounds, I'll say the same thing I said about Goliath at Great America. As long as it's forceful, I won't consider it filler track. I can't really speak for the ride in that sense, but this experience as a whole makes it look to be the best intimate prefab. Continuing to 2009, that year's best coaster looks to be Diamondback at Kings Island. This ride also has a large focus on airtime, but this time, it's floater airtime. Also like T-Express, this ride looks to execute its airtime very well. Every hill on this ride looks to give perfected floater airtime. You can definitely tell B&M was perfecting their craft at making these kinds of rides. Even the elements without a focus on airtime still look to pop in their own way. That first turnaround looks really intense, and the splashdown looks like pure fun. This is a ride that, as a whole, defines pure fun. Starting off the next decade for 2010 is Project 305 at King's Dominion. I seriously hope they don't keep that name around. This ride is all about the intensity. For almost the entire duration, this ride throws intense positive Gs and very snappy turns with an occasional break for a floater airtime moment. Even the floater airtime on this ride looks to be really good. And that's not even what it's known for. It's known for that intensity, and that alone is what makes it top of the class for many coaster enthusiasts. I think this ride would demolish the intensity of Maverick and Incredible Hulk, and those rides already rank highly for me. It just shows how this ride has next level intensity. For 2011, I'm going with Takab Bisha at Fuji-Q Highland. I was considering New Texas Giant or even Wood Coaster, but this ride looks much more crazy. This ride can't help but even start crazy with that slow heartline roll in the dark and what looks to be one of the strongest LSM launches. The rest of this ride looks to give intense positives going into each hang time filled inversion. There even seems to be a small emphasis on airtime, not only as you fly down the first drop, but as you pass over this switchback hill, which looks to give decent floater airtime. With great floater, ejector, positives, and hang time, this ride really looks to be the full package. What looks to be the best roller coaster of 2012 is Sky Rush at Hershey Park. Here we are again with another super intense ride. This ride looks to throw sustained positive G's followed by insane ejector pops, and it looks to do that for the entire duration. Those airtime hills look to be as strong but more sustained than Maverick's airtime moments. After receiving upgraded trains this year, the only real problem I see seems to be that lackluster finale. With these new trains, you'll likely get to experience the airtime at its finest, so they can greatly complement the intense positives. That's what this ride was meant for. 2013's best coaster looks to be Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. After the success of New Texas Giant, RMC decided to kick it up a notch with their next conversion. This ride looks to throw in so many forces at you, it might be dizzying. Almost every airtime moment on this ride looks spiced up in some way. There looks to be a lot of sideways airtime. That first drop looks insane as the train is just whipped to the left and then suddenly to the right. Even that is kind of overshadowed by the drop off of the quarry wall. This whole section on the quarry wall might look kind of slow, but I bet with a full train, it will still hold a lot of power and just enhance this ride to its full potential. Going into 2014, I'm going with Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom. This ride may not be super big, but the power of the airtime looks to deliver big time. You may not think a ride this short and slow would give the craziest ride, and yeah, that's kind of true, but it still looks bonkers with how whippy some of those transitions look and how strong that airtime looks. Even though the airtime is legendary, I feel like those other forces are underappreciated. The positives rising into the airtime moments look surprisingly decent, and the snappy moments look like something Intamin would do. This ride is well known for its airtime, which it deserves, but for a coaster without any inversions, it really looks to bring forces of all kinds. For the best coaster of 2015, I'm choosing Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England. Okay, I may have forgotten to put Fury 325 on this list. When looking at roller coasters that opened in 2015, I completely skipped over Fury 325, and it hadn't even crossed my mind. So after rethinking that, I think Fury 325 is the best roller coaster to open in 2015. But I guess with that out of the way, we can continue with the video. This ride tries to be like the large-scale RMCs by extending the ride time and making every element pop. Even though this ride is one of their smallest coasters, the airtime moments look to be some of the strongest RMC has to deliver. As the ride starts to slow down, those hills shrink a lot, so they can hold the same power as some of the first hills. Aside from the airtime, there still looks to be good positives going into that overbank and rising into the stall. The inversions on this ride also look to give some of the finest hang time out there. You look to lose enough speed going into the first one that it looks really delightful. With the next two, the train looks to have lost enough speed that hang time is guaranteed. This ride looks to really use its lack of speed to its advantage. For 2016, I'm going with Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan. Out of all the B&M flying coasters out there, this one looks to be the best. Normally their flyers would be really graceful with an occasional pretzel loop thrown in. This ride looks to throw those rides to shame with its crazy looking elements and how unconventional it looks. You'd think that whippy 500 degree 0G roll turned into a pretzel loop would be it, but no, there's a full pretzel loop later in the ride. Even the scenic turnaround before the final inversion looks more intense than one on something like Superman at Great America. This ride even has two inline twists. The first one looks like a standard one on a B&M flyer, but the second one looks so much crazier as it just whips you around the track. On top of all that, this ride even throws in an airtime hill, giving you an actual sensation of flying. This ride is what happens when a B&M Flyer is on steroids. 2017's best roller coaster looks to be DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Warner Brothers Movie World. This hypercoaster by Mach Rides looks to turn the concept of a conventional hyper on its head, almost making it unconventional. This ride has the big swooping turns, but they come from and lead to crazy looking switchback turns. It also has the airtime hills you normally see on traditional hypers, but this ride decides to be more ejector focused. Of course, the main elements are the drop and the non-inverting loop. Even though this ride doesn't invert, it still looks to bring its own unique flares to make it something that can really only be experienced in Australia. What looks to be the best coaster of 2018 is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. I can also say I've ridden this one. This ride cannot stop throwing the best airtime on a roller coaster at you. This ride has been called repetitive, but I think it throws in a very nice mix of airtime elements and inversions. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, because it was spot on. Each element on this ride builds off of the last one, so it'll keep you hyped for whatever is next. The top hat gives fantastic ejector while pinning you to the side of the train, and that just balloons your dopamine levels so you can enjoy the sustained ejector of that outer bank to its fullest. Even though this ride is airtime focused, those inversions still hit hard. The first two have really great whip to them, and the last two have crazy hang time. This ride very much exceeded my expectations, which were already pretty high, and has become my new number one overall coaster. For 2019's best coaster, I'm choosing Zadra at Energylandia. With how much Steel Vengeance blew away my expectations for this ride have shot way up. Even with that, I still think this ride could easily meet them. This ride looks to have some serious whip all over the place. There looks to be a lot going through the inversions and also quick but insane moments going over that switchback bunny hop and around the wave turn. The positives rising into the big elements look to maybe induce some graying out. This ride may not be known for its airtime, but the positives and whip turned this whole ride into an insane beast of a roller coaster. Continuing into the year of delays, 2020, I'm going to choose Fly at Fantasialand. This whole ride looks to revolutionize the concept of a flying coaster. Even though Flying Dinosaur looks to be the best B&M flying coaster, this looks to be the best overall flying coaster. Adding that launch may just make you feel like Superman taking off, which looks like a really weird feeling. On top of that, this ride actually looks airtime focused, so you'd get the best flying sensation on any coaster on this ride. The inversions on this ride also look really floaty, so they don't really feel out of place for me. All this combined with the incredible theming makes it look to be the perfect flying coaster experience. Going into 2021, I'm going with Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland in Japan. This ride really seems to deliver what its name implies. Almost everyone who comes off this thing seems to put it in their number one spot. With how crazy this ride looks, it's not hard to see why. Even before the ride really starts, you immediately get hit with a JoJo roll that looks to give insane hang time in the front and decent whip in the back. Even the launches on this ride look punchy. For a Mach coaster, that's insane. The rest of this ride looks wild as you look to be taking these elements with great speed while freely spinning. All of that whip looks to even push the limits of forces humans can endure. With free spinning, the ride is just going to be different each time you ride this, making the craziness of it hardly go down. All of this makes this my highest bucket list coaster ever. 2022's best coaster looks to be Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. After claiming Steel Vengeance as my number one, I can confidently say that this looks to be the best roller coaster in Florida. The elements on this ride look to be some of the best RMC has to offer. To complement this, these elements look to have a really nice flow to them. You're already starting the next element while finishing another. Throw in some excellent looking pacing and you get one of the best packages on any coaster. This is a ride that I really wish I got to experience on my Florida trip back in 2022 so I could get a proper comparison with Velocicoaster. For 2023, I'm going with Batman Gotham City Escape at Parque Warner Madrid. This ride has been nicknamed Spanish Velocicoaster, but from what I've heard, this isn't really the case. This ride looks to take its elements at different pacing than Velocicoaster. That stall looks like it's taken really slowly, and with the flatness, it looks to give crazy hang time for quite a bit. There's also this unique camelback that looks to give maybe the strongest airtime on any coaster. The trims on the top hat almost act as a holding brake, which are great moments for suspense. Rounding out the unique experiences is that spike serving as the final brake run. With all the unique elements this ride has, it really seems to have its own flair different from any other Intamin Blitz coaster. This year's best roller coaster looks to be Voltron at Europa Park. Even though Hyperia looks to have crazier elements, it's a very short ride for a hypercoaster, and Voltron has more elements that look almost as good. Surprisingly, this ride looks to have forceful launches with one even going beyond vertical. Mach isn't really known for their strong launches, but this and Ride to Happiness seem to be the exceptions. On top of great launches, this ride also looks to throw in some really strong ejector airtime moments. With the supposedly open restraints, you'll get to experience the airtime at its best. When you add on good theming, this is for sure a ride to not disappoint. That will just about do it for this video. This one was certainly a lot of fun to make. Right after this video comes out, I will be working on a video ranking the wooden coasters I've been on. You won't see any from Worlds of Fun because I had to cancel that trip due to a busy schedule. Go figure. Anyways, it's time for me to go now. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.